The story begins with a seemingly perfect family. The protagonist, a woman in her early 30s, grew up in a wealthy household with her parents and older brother. Her father was a successful businessman, and her mother was a socialite who prided herself on maintaining the family's impeccable reputation. From the outside, they were the picture of success and unity. The protagonist always admired her older brother, who was charismatic and ambitious. He followed in their father's footsteps, taking over the family business while she pursued a career in the arts. Despite their different paths, they were close, or so she thought. The family's facade began to crack when their father passed away unexpectedly. At the reading of the will, the protagonist was shocked to discover that her father had left the majority of his estate, including the family business, properties, and wealth, to her brother. She received only a small trust fund, barely enough to support herself. Confused and hurt, she confronted her brother and mother. They dismissed her concerns, claiming that her father had made the decision because her brother was more capable of managing the family assets. They assured her that the trust fund was more than enough for her needs, given her simple lifestyle. Unable to shake her suspicions, the protagonist began digging into her father's affairs. She discovered that her brother had been manipulating their father for years, feeding him lies about her financial irresponsibility and lack of ambition. He had even forged documents to make it appear as though she had squandered money in the past. The deeper she dug, the more she uncovered. She found evidence that her mother had been complicit in the scheme, prioritizing her son's future over her daughter's. The betrayal cut deep, especially since she had always trusted her family implicitly. Armed with evidence, the protagonist confronted her brother and mother. The confrontation was explosive. Her brother accused her of being ungrateful and selfish, while her mother tearfully defended her actions, claiming she only wanted what was best for the family. The protagonist, however, refused to back down. She demanded her fair share of the inheritance and threatened to take legal action if they didn't comply. Her brother laughed in her face, confident that he could outmaneuver her in court. Determined to fight for what was rightfully hers, the protagonist hired a lawyer and filed a lawsuit against her brother and mother. The legal battle was grueling, with her family using every resource at their disposal to discredit her. They spread rumors about her mental instability and even tried to bribe witnesses. Despite the emotional toll, the protagonist remained steadfast. She found strength in the support of her closest friends and her partner, who stood by her side throughout the ordeal. Slowly but surely, she began to piece together a case that exposed her family's lies and manipulation. Just as the case was gaining momentum, a shocking revelation came to light. The protagonist discovered that her father had actually written a second will, one that divided the estate equally between her and her brother. This will had been hidden by her brother and mother, who had conspired to destroy it. With this new evidence, the tide turned in her favor. The court ruled that the second will was valid, and her brother and mother were forced to relinquish half of the estate to her. The victory was bittersweet, as it came at the cost of her relationship with her family. With her inheritance secured, the protagonist began rebuilding her life. She used part of the money to start her own art gallery, fulfilling a lifelong dream. She also reconnected with distant relatives who had been estranged from the family due to her brother's manipulative behavior. Though the betrayal still haunted her, she found solace in the love and support of her chosen family, her partner, her friends, and the community she built through her art. She realized that family isn't defined by blood but by the bonds of trust and respect. Months after the legal battle, her brother reached out to her, asking for a meeting. Reluctantly, she agreed. He confessed that he had been consumed by greed and regret, and he apologized for his actions. He admitted that he had lost everything: his reputation, his relationships, and even control of the family business. The protagonist listened but made it clear that she could never forgive him. She told him that his actions had irreparably damaged their relationship, and she had no interest in rebuilding it. She walked away, leaving him to face the consequences of his choices. The story ends with the protagonist standing in her art gallery, surrounded by the people who truly cared for her. She reflected on the journey she had been through and the lessons she had learned. Though the betrayal had been painful, it had also given her the strength to stand up for herself and build a life on her own terms. As she looked at a painting of a stormy sea, she realized that, like the ocean, life was unpredictable and often turbulent. But with resilience and the support of loved ones, she could weather any storm.